friends, and welcome back to my crafty space. My name is Crystal, and in today's video, I am going to share a flip through of all the projects I completed this month using the Pieces Story Kit for Story Kit Crush. So let me go ahead and set this whole pile to the side, and then we're going to go through them one at a time. I'll let you know what the story concept was, as well as whether or not there was a process video and where that process video can be viewed. So the very first one I did here was one that I shared on YouTube. This is a 3x8 sized layout, and the story for this one was yours, mine, and ours. For this one, I decided to tell the story about chores around our house. So yours being my husband's chores, mine being mine, and then ours being what we do together. And really for this story, I just really focused on one for each of those categories. So one chore of Aaron's, one chore of mine, and then one chore that we do together. The next layout that I did is also shared here on YouTube. This one is called Some Pieces of My Heart. For this one, I was inspired by this heart piece on a 4x6 journaling card. I stamped a bunch of words into it, 5 things that are really important to me, or 5 things that make my heart happy. And then on the opposite page of this traveler's notebook, I have 5 photos that correspond to the 5 different things, and then I have journaling about the 5 different things down below. So that one is the traveler's notebook sized layout. Next, this layout was one here again on YouTube. I can actually pull it out here for a second. So this one is a layered look here. So I've got the photos across the top, this Pieces title in the middle, and then a journaling card at the bottom. And the photos correspond to the journaling directly beneath them. For this one, I used the story concept of little tiny micro pieces of my daughter's life. I wanted to document some of the things about her right now from a really small, thing toward sort of perspective. So like a little bin of toys, some Legos on her desk, her bed, her toothbrush, and then a letter that she received from her best friend at school. So this one you can see here on YouTube as well. Next, I have a layout. This one is a 6x8 layout. I should also mention that this layout here is going to go inside of my daughter's story album, her 6x8 story album. This one here is going to go in the main story album that's sized 6x8. I have one that is specifically for my daughter, one that is specifically for my son, and then one which is a collection of all the rest of the stories put together. This one I did over in my Patreon, so that's where the process video lives for this one, as well as the layer template in order to create the photo on this side. The concept here was mostly inspired by this card here that talks about a broken piece of pottery, pieces of this pottery that's been broken. And that made me think of shards and glass and the way that mirrors or glass might break when hit, and how it spider webs kind of off from a central point. So for this one, I created a photo that looks kind of like that, where it's got this split off with different shards that make up the whole. And in each one of the quote unquote shards, I put a photo of one of our family members. So there's myself, my husband, Isabella, Jonah, and our 2 cats over here. And then I talked about the piece or the part that each of us plays in our family. And that's what the journaling is on the left-hand side. So I've got a block of text for each of us. And then the 2 cats, although they are both pictured here, I split them up into 2 different blocks on the journaling card itself. The layout after that is right on the back, and I did just go ahead and adhere them back to back. This one is another layout that I completed over in Patreon. This one I was inspired by the card here that says, "Hey, you, don't force the pieces that don't fit." And that made me think of a puzzle and the way that we might try to force pieces into some sections of a puzzle as we are building it. And from that idea, I thought, how cool would it be to take a photo and turn that photo into a puzzle, cut it into puzzle pieces, and then reassemble it on a blank canvas but have some of the pieces not fit. So I actually printed the same photo twice, turned one of them into a puzzle where all of the pieces fit, and then recreated 3 of the pieces so that they are in the right spot, but they do not have the right shape. So that gave me this really kind of interesting looking photo over here where I've got 3 pieces that actually do not fit inside of their spots. This one's harder to tell, and I actually did that on purpose, just because, you know, psychologically, philosophically, like sometimes we have pieces that we're trying to force into our lives and they really, really, really look as if they go there until you look close enough and realize that that piece actually doesn't fit. So I have 3 different pieces. They are propped up on foam tapes to give them a little bit more dimension and make them pop out a bit more when you see it, especially when you see it in person. It's much easier to tell that way. But I think this one turned out so cool. I really, really loved getting creative in this way for how to visually represent the story that I was trying to tell. So these are going to go inside of the 6x8 family story album. And that will be that. Next, I have another layout that I created here on YouTube. This one is documenting some memories from a recent trip our family took to Mexico. So I've got a couple of photos printed at 4x4. I have a journaling card that I added some embellishment to. This was ultimately what sparked the idea of telling a story from the vacation, just because it talks about being pieces of the places we have been. And then I created this grid-like journaling card using the chipboard as jumping off points for my journaling, and then added my text below that, stitching the lines in there in order to give it a little bit more dimension. This one is going to go inside of a 10x8 album, which will document specifically this trip. So that's where that's going to go. The next 3 layouts I do not have process videos for. Sometimes, or at least this year in particular, I am letting myself create some of my Story Kit Crush projects without videoing them. That way I can just enjoy the process, have some fun, get the stories told, and then share them with you here so I can kind of tell you what I did as we go through this. This first one is Love You to Pieces. For this one, I printed a photo of my husband sized at 6 inches by 12 inches, and the whole piece here is a 9x12. Then on the little edge over on the left side, I've layered up 2 different cards here at the top, one that's a pattern and the one on top of that says Love You to Pieces, which is my title. I have some journaling here about things I love about my husband, and you can see close-up images of all of these layouts and read the journaling for all of these layouts over on my blog, which I'll have a link to down in the description box below. So that way, if you want to actually read the journaling for the ones that you haven't heard me read out loud, you can go check them out there. So we've got things I love about this man, and I wrote my journaling. And then at the bottom, I fussy cut out this heart from another 3x4 card. I attached it with a brad here. I actually adhered it and then put the brad in there. I was hoping to find some spinners, which I have somewhere, but I can't seem to find them anywhere. But they are Tim Holtz metal arrows that act as a game spinner. I wanted to put one on here and have it point up at him. And I may still do that eventually. I might just need to order another set of those because I don't even know what I did. I know for a fact I did not use them all. So it's just, what did I do with them? So anyway, I wanted it to point. So it's kind of like love him. And then down the edge between the photo and the journaling, this is something I often like to do to create a visual separation between the photo and the journaling. For this one, I took the chipboard refrigerator tiles here that have words on them, and I created sentences or little phrases and then layered them down, vertically down the page. So I have things like build our life, this matters, my whole heart, journey to being us, all the love, family, one piece of you, and so on. I really like the way that looks, and I like that it gives it some dimension in this layout as well. So that's that one. That's a 9x12. The last 2 are 12x12s. This one here, I don't remember what I like titled this one, but basically I wanted to create a layout that used up a bunch of the speech bubbles and some of the leftover chipboard pieces. So what I did is I actually just printed this whole thing as a photo, the background. It's a 12 by 12 and the photos inside the grid are 4 by 4. These are random photos, so some of them from work, like this is my mug on my desk with my computer mouse. These are some planners that I have going. I have my chipped nail polish, which is still chipped and I still need to redo it. I've got a box of cords that needs to be put away, my nail polish and my curling iron that were out on the counter, some of the snow that was melting off of our deck. I've got my feet with all of these toys around it, a picture of my husband's office where our bookshelves are currently serving as our pantry while we redo our pantry, and then a picture of me journaling or writing my to-do list for the day. So these are just like little pieces, and maybe that's what I wanted it to be, is kind of like small pieces of life, small pieces of my day-to-day comings and goings, that sort of thing. So then I layered up a larger speech bubble with a smaller speech bubble. And oftentimes I tried to have one that had an area for journaling and one that was more patterned that could become a home for a chipboard piece. So then we have clusters of 3. So up here I've got the details, bits and pieces, and work life. So I journaled a bit about work life stuff, about planners and trying to make this year successful. I have this one that says home life, and I talked about our house projects being underway and hoping to unpack more of these boxes and get them out of our house. These ones do not have any journaling, just says a piece of my heart. And this one says remembering the little things. This one says pieces of your life with weekend life. And I talked about toys being everywhere ever since Christmas, and that especially on the weekends, it seems our house is just filled with toys everywhere. Then I've got the slice of life where I talked about the pantry project being close to done and that I can't wait for the office to look like an office again. So this one was really fun. It's busy, but there's something I like about having a page that as a whole you can look at and you can see the bigger images here probably right away, and maybe some of the colorful chipboard pop out to you. But then when you zoom in, you're given more details and more things to look at. I think that that can be really fun in terms of layout design. Okay, then the last one I have here was inspired by this card that says, our lives are like quilts, bits and pieces, joy and sorrow stitched with love. So for this one, I wanted to create a visual representation of a quilt, and using particularly squares, like quilted squares. So what I have on here are 10 photos where I've also used the 1 through 10 chipboard circles. And these are 10 pieces of what makes up my life. So I have being the oldest child, being pretty nerdy. I am musical, so I've always enjoyed music, playing music, all that sort of stuff. Education, being an overachiever, family or family-oriented, motherhood, creative-minded, a love for words, and married to my best friend. So these are all pieces that make up who I am as a person. So I did the 10 photos, and it's obviously not everything that makes up who I am. It's just 10 things that I could think of at the moment that make up who I am. So I have the 10 photos, and then I have these 2 squares where I've added in context. So they are listed 1 through 5, 6 through 10, and that's my journaling that kind of explains a bit more about each of those different things. Then in the middle, I added a piece of orange pattern paper from my stash, cut down a 6x4 journaling card to be 4x4 and added that into the center of the orange. And then every single connection point I stitched with a zigzag stitch to give it that look of being stitched together like a quilt, and then bringing in or reinforcing that idea of being stitched with love. I think that's such an awesome visual for us to think about as we're thinking about how our lives are put together and all the different pieces that have come in or that have moved out, and everything in between. So that, friends, is my my, I don't know, story haul, I suppose, with my pieces story kit from Ali Edwards. So that gave me a total of 9 layouts. I do have just a little bit of product left over on purpose to use for Project Life. So at some point you will see a layout that I've created with this kit for Project Life. Otherwise, everything from this kit has been used up. I do probably have more of the refrigerator tiles that I won't end up using in Project Life, at least not all of them, because there's quite a bit. So those will likely go back into my stash, but pretty much everything else I should be able to use up when I go to do that week. All right, well, if you have any questions about any of the layouts that I've created, where you can find process videos, or any of the products that I used for them, please let me know in the comments section, or definitely check out the blog post that will accompany this video, because I'll have things linked there and more detailed shots and all of that as well. So you can find out more information over on that blog. I'm going to be back next week on Monday, starting out with the new old kit. So in February, I'm going to be crushing 2 kits again. The new kit that I will be working on Fridays will be the Delight Story Kit, which was released in December of 2021. And then the old kit, which I will be crushing on Mondays, is going to be the Breathe Story Kit from Ali Edwards, which I believe was a kit from back in 2019, but I don't remember exactly which month that came out. When I do the intro video for it, I'll let you know though, because I'll have a chance to look that up. All right, friends, well, if you enjoyed seeing all of these layouts, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can see all of my future crafty videos as well. Until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful week ahead, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.